Buongiorno, my loves.
Good morning.
I'm here with fabulous Chef Jack, who's such a good chef, baker, puts all those ingredients together.
And makes lots of dishes for Eva.
Sometimes. So one of the things that we actually were talking about this morning was popping ourselves out of our own paradigms and kind of seeing different boxes and seeing different paradigms, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And an interesting thing about living and working in a lot of different cultures is that we are given the gift of seeing very, very different perspectives. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And like seeing that just the perspective and the culture that we were raised in is not the absolute one. So one of the things that I started realizing as I started doing work in developing nations and doing kind of work in international development stuff was I started seeing this weird paradigm where in developing nations, the people that are invested in the absolute most are young women that are just about to be mothers and mothers. Those are the people that get all of the economic aid dollars. They get the international development dollars. They get the microfinance, the loans. Those are the people that get the leadership development. Those are the people that get the investments. And so people who are working in that sector know that young women, kind of like late teenage women, girls, people who are just about to be mothers, and mothers are the ones that we want to give the most investment into because they're the ones that are going to reinvest in the future stability, the future peace, the future sustainability and growth of that nation, that culture, that community.
And so what another thing we could call the children is future. Because so there's a saying that goes something like we're not inheriting the earth from our parents, we're borrowing it from our children. And so that means that the children are the future. And so if we want the children to become, to make our society a future, so that's why developing nations give money to these women, is they don't need, or they don't think they need, a future, or like a better future, because they already have it all. That's developed nations. And developing nations are the ones that are like, we do need a better future, and I know that I'm not going to live forever, and so I know that I need to invest in my future citizens, which are the children.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I love, hey Sheila, I love too how Jack is pointing out here this difference between the developed world and the developing world. So in developed nations, it's literally exactly the opposite. So as we're, looking at this kind of investing in mothers in the developed world, we're realizing that we have actually economic disincentives to become mothers in the developed world. So any woman that chooses at some point in her career to be a mother, even if she takes just a little bit of maternity leave and returns to some kind of work outside of the home, she's economically disincentivized for the rest of her life. She receives less investment money in her. Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
For the rest of her life, because she chose to be a mother. And so, and if someone decides to take time off of work, decides to have a career shift of being in that stay-at-home mom role, there is a huge economic hit that's taken during that time. So we do exactly the opposite of investing in our future peace and stability and growth in the developed world. Whereas in developing nations, we realize that that's where we need to invest in order to create that future stability and peace and growth. I think that's just a really fascinating thing for us to think about and see those differences in the paradigms that we're holding here. And honestly, I'm not super surprised at the position that we're in right now in the developed world, where there's a lot of instability and not necessarily a whole lot of peace that's going on in the developed world right now. We haven't invested in that future for decades. And we're sort of at this place now where we're reaping the things that we have not invested in.
Which are the future without a future.
Yeah. So I think that that's a really good thing to think about as we're thinking about kind of developing this group of mother and nurturers, people who are going out there and helping to keep the family together, helping to kind of grow and again reinvest in the future of our society and the peace and the stability of our societies. As we're thinking about how are we going to do that, how are we going to develop that, I think that this is an interesting paradox for us to look at of like, what are we doing in terms of investment in the mothers? Because they're the ones that are going to reinvest in our future. Like this guy. What do you think?
I think that being the future, I'm very glad to be invested in.
That's true. I think Jack's probably grateful that I invested in him, huh? Yeah, definitely. Yep. Definitely. All right. Have a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful day. We will have a joyful time chatting about this today, enjoying our summer days, investing in our futures, investing in our future chefs that we have in this world too. And we'll see you tomorrow, yeah? Bye-bye.